Good morning, hello, and good morning. It's a lovely sunny day in April. We've just had Easter. I have to go left here because the road to the right is closed for the week. There's a car parked on the corner over there. There's some junction boxes over there or something, and normally I'd go and see what they're up to, but not today. Anyway, how are you? I hope you're well. Sorry about the bright sunshine, not good conditions for filming. So we're back to work with Ernest after Easter. We're already starting to get interesting cases coming in. I had a lady in yesterday. She's in her 80s. She's got no back teeth, no molars, but she's got all of the others, including her front teeth. And several teeth are crowned, which I think is responsible for their longevity, or longevity, however you pronounce it. Because with only 10 teeth up the top instead of the normal 16, and same down the bottom, those 20 teeth are the smaller teeth as well at the front. They're going to be inevitably overloaded. So the fact that they're crowned, I think, has really contributed to the prognosis for those teeth, and the fact that she's in her 80s and she's still not wearing dentures, and so that sort of tends to reinforce what I think of as the Yorkshire rule, which is that you don't bother saving the molars, but you do put quite a bit of effort into saving the from the premolars forwards, because that's all you need to have a reasonable appearance and to be able to talk and to be able to chew your food. So perhaps they had something there. No more root treating second molars, I would say. Of course I will, but anyway, she'd snapped off a tooth, upper right 5 had broken off at gum level, and I can't really know what was there for two reasons. One is, I mean, it could have been a crown or it could have been a tooth. The fact that it snapped at gum level leads me to suspect that it was a crown, because the crown would decay around the crown at gum level, whereas a tooth probably wouldn't snap off at gum level like that. But she came in and she was in a high dudgeon because she explained to me more than once that she'd very cleverly and proudly retained the piece that had broken off and given it to the dentist, and the dentist had immediately taken one look at it and just thrown it in the bin. So that it's an interesting psychological point, that, because I said to her, like, are you cross that they've thrown away this when, and you were hoping that it could have been stuck back in or something could have been done with it? And she looked at me and I could tell actually that wasn't the reason why she was cross. The reason she was cross was for the same reason. Let's say, for example, you had an industrial accident, heaven forbid, and you lost a finger. One of your fingers was cut off. So what you do is you pack it up as best you can and you get yourself off down to A&E, and you explain that you've lost one of your fingers in a horrendous bandsaw accident, and the doctor who's on duty, you give him your finger and he takes one look at it and just throws it straight in the bin, like, you know, well, that's obviously no use, you know. So that was why she was upset, because her part had been summarily dismissed to the garbage. So she didn't feel valued as a human being at that point, you know. And she was also, I think, a bit, you know, a bit upset that she's bits of her are falling off and getting stuck in the down the waste disposal unit. So, I mean, her last dentist had other problems. Another one of which was, you know, constantly know, when the patient tried to bring these issues up, saying, "Oh, don't tell me you're complaining again, and don't tell me you're whinging again," you know, which is, I suppose, calculated to say to the patient in a sort of a semi-threatening way that you're getting a bit fed up with them going on about stuff that, you know, while you're trying to do your job as a dentist and give it the high-minded examination, diagnosis and treatment planning, and they're just constantly complaining about this and that and this and that. Anyway, so she was complained about the fact that the dentist also was discussing her and talking about her and complaining and telling the other staff that she was a whingy old moo, you know, within earshot. So I don't know, you know, all this sort of arrogant, autocratic behaviour by dentists is not appropriate in my opinion, and and doesn't do your business any good unless you consider it to be your business to get rid of patients like this. Anyway, we wheeled the old whiteboard out and said that, you know, basically your options are you can do nothing, leave it alone, but your face might blow up like a football. You can we can extract the root and leave you with a gap, in which case your face probably won't blow up like a football, or we can extract the 5 root and do a bridge onto between the 4 and the 6, which would be extremely strong. But, you know, considering that this patient's in their 80s, do they really want to? Is a bridge that's going to last them 40 years probably appropriate? Or we can do something which is, you know, in my younger years I might have regarded as a bit of a bodge, bit of a, how can I put it, a bit, you know, sharp practice, and just do a open-ended cantilever bridge. And in this case it was off the 6, which was heavily filled and but periodontally quite well, good enough to support a pontic, which would basically, let's face it, be a semi-functional pontic, and for aesthetic reasons in the upper right 5, and then leave the 4 alone, and the 4 was one of the teeth which was crowned. So why take that crown off? I mean, okay, you've got the advantage that it's already crowned, and so the preparation is already done for you, if you like. You've got the but you know, that very firmly comes under the heading of, if it's not broke, don't touch it, in my opinion. So we explained this all with the whiteboard, you know, and big colours out: black for teeth, red for pulps, blue for decay, orange for what we're going to do about it all. And this whiteboard works very well, and I wrote up the cost of doing it all, not including the cost of the checkup, but including the x-rays, the extraction of the 5 root, and it's basically the preparation of the 6, and the cost of making up the 2-unit bridge came to 1,327. And she's got no email, this lady, so I can't email quotes through to her. So what I said to her, like, you know, because you've got no email, if you wait 2 minutes, I'll get this all printed out and you can take it with you. Because in the past, what we've done is, when we've wanted to send her letters and invoices and stuff, we've literally driven around her house and dropped it through the door, because she's just round the corner from the surgery. So while it's not a massive inconvenience, I thought, well, she's here, we might as well. And we can do these quotes very quickly. So I said, if you wait, I can print this out, or I can post it to you, I don't mind. I said, if you wait, it'll save us a stamp. So I said, I'll put it down to reflect our cost savings. So I rubbed out the 7 and wrote a 6. So it ended up being 1,326. And the patients, they sort of quite like that. I had a cheeky chappy type, You know, they like, I think they quite like the fact that you're not so serious, so super serious, you know. But I said, but that's it. That's the biggest discount I can give you. I'll give you £1 off that because we're not going to use the stamp. But other than that, that's the cost. Anyway, she thought about it and said straight away, yeah, I'd like to get that done, which is great from several aspects. Because first of all, it's so nice to have a patient who's decisive, in that they trust themselves and are used to making decisions. Secondly, that they know that they've got the resources to do that sort of thing. They don't have to go back and try and work out what day they pay their credit card and stuff like that. And quite often you find it's the little old dears who have got the spending power, you know. They have got the £1,000 or even the £2,000 for the dentures, etc., etc. Look at these morons. It's a lovely day. But man, it is a racetrack, this place. This is a racetrack. It's full of young men who are still at that stage in their life where they're competing for resources. They're bringing up families. They're under financial pressure, time pressure, work pressure from their bosses and stuff like that. And so they've got the energy, and they've got, you know, the excitement of being young and alive in 2026. If there is any. So they treat it like a racetrack. So anyway, straight away she said, right, I'll get that done. So we printed it out, gave her the stuff, and there you go. So bridge basically for, you know, the amount of effort involved in a crown, I would say. Lower impression, upper impression for temporary. The temporary crowns now we're doing in light and heavy bodied putty, not putty. It's a pink thing. It's a pink stuff. It mixes up in the Improgum machine. Not that anyone uses Improgum anymore, but it's the mechanical mixer. It's a pink material, and then what we do is we take a mould of the tooth before we prepare it, and then we have a look and see like whether we got really, what you're after is a very high definition impression. And if you've got one, then you're fine. But if not, then what you do is you get a pair of rongeurs or something and pull out all the flappy fine detail and stuff, and then put some light-bodied crown impression material inside and just reseat it. And then when you've done that, you end up with a very, very high definition impression. And that's what you want when you're making temporaries, because when you fill it full of the temporary crown material and you reseat it again, you want it to be very, very well adapted around the edges and stuff like that, because it's much easier then to take it out and trim it up. Very, very minimal trimming required. And also you can keep that, you can put that in the cupboard, so that if the temporary crown comes off before the main crown comes back, you can reuse it to remake another temporary. So anyway, that's case one. Case two was another girl, 24, I think, something like that. Had a interest in medical history, fibromyalgia, possible Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. Now, what I encourage you to do when you take the medical history for the first time is just to take your time, right? Take your time. And by take your time, what I mean is, if the patient says, oh, I'm on such and such a drug, And you think, well, I've never heard of that. Or you might think, well, I think I've heard of it, but just remind me what it does again. Just Google it. And ask the patient how to spell it. If they say, oh, I'm on serendipity, don't try and get it. If you haven't heard of the drug, just say, oh, and how do you spell that? And the patients will say, S, E. And what you're doing is you're making the point that, okay, you don't know how to spell it, but then they don't know how to spell it either, and they're on it. So they can't complain that you don't know what they're talking about. So anyway, between the two of you, you can usually get the hang of what the drug is. And what I do is I then cut and paste the brief explanatory introductory paragraph from Google into the medical history field, so that if I refer to it in future, I can actually see straight away what it is. And she was on a variety of esoteric drugs, including medicinal cannabis, believe it or not. It's the first patient we've ever come across who's been prescribed medicinal cannabis. And she didn't have too much wrong with her, except that someone had she'd had her teeth straightened, and someone had put one of these chain link retainers on her teeth, and without really a plan to remove it, and she just happens to naturally get quite a lot of supragingival calculus on her lower incisors. And so I said to her, really, if we're going to be serious about cleaning your teeth up, you need to have this removed. So what we've done is we've made a plan to remove the chain link retainer and descale her teeth, and then what I'll probably do is make her an Essex retainer, which is we can make very cheaply because we've got the lab on site with a suck down machine. So and I've actually sort of made a mental note to do that for her free of charge, because obviously the one thing that is the biggest concern when you take retainers, fixed retainers off people's teeth, are my teeth going to go wonky? Are they going to go... Now what they mean is, are my teeth going to revert to how they used to be before I had the orthodontics done? Which of course is a genuine concern. At the worst, what might happen is they might get some slight misalignment of the teeth, and that's why you mustn't say, like, oh no, that they've been fixed for 2 years now, so that's it, they're stuck there, they won't go back, because you can't say that. It's tempting to say no, it'll be fine, but they'll remember and what they do is that you won't even be able to see the misalignment. What they'll do is they'll put their teeth across the row, their finger or their tongue across the row, and they'll think, they're not straight. I can feel it. And it'll be something like 1/500th of an inch, not straight, but they'll be able to tell. The human brain can differentiate to 1,000th of an inch when comparing things. And they'll blame you immediately. They say, that's a bloody dentist who took my permanent retainer off. Everything was fine till he took it off. All I needed was a scale and polish, and now he's mucked up my orthodontics. No, they might not say mucked up, but you get the idea. But again, she's was nervous, coming to a new dentist, etc. Although I've seen her parents for a long time. And we had a long chat about, they know the comedian Max Miller, he's one of the funniest blokes I've ever heard. But they've actually met him. He was on a cruise. And then they've got a Dachshund dog, which is piebald. And I said, oh, that's unusual to see a piebald Dachshund. And they were absolutely amazed, because I was the first person in the world that has ever said that this Dachshund is piebald, because it's unusual. And but I only did it because it was a clue in a crossword that I'd done a couple of days before. It's like short, blotchy horse or something, which was the answer was piebald pony. So, mind, no, I do know the word, but I mean, you know, I just had it right on the end of the tip of my tongue because I just literally used it in a crossword. And she said, "Oh, I'm so nervous when I come to the dentist." And I said to her, "Do you know what?" I said, "I'm nervous." I said, "I'm more nervous than you. I get the impression that if I look at you the wrong way, you're going to just drop dead." There's so much wrong with her. And she really laughed at that. And that's great. You know, if you can use humour to break down that barrier between you and the patient quickly, then that's a talent, I think. And if you've got it, then that's great. If you haven't, then like the woman who threw the tooth in the bin, I don't think you'll ever get it. But perhaps it just comes from having the time, I suppose. You know, you've got 3/4 of an hour to do a checkup on someone. You can afford to crack a few jokes, can't you? Yeah. But anyway, yeah, she wanted to. It's like usually, like all the young women, she wanted to composite veneers, and so I had to have a chat with her. So she might get her teeth whitened instead, but I'm a bit past doing composite veneers at the moment. Although I did go in the local Sainsbury's, and they're only giving away brochures from Creative Dental in Hungary, in Budapest, in Sainsbury's. So, you know, fair enough. So that's how the people get to know where to go. But then we've had a news article recently about a bloke who had periodontal disease, went to Hungary, was promised an all-on-4, had the teeth taken out in preparation for it, and they then decided that it wasn't going to go ahead. And I don't know any more than that. I mean, it could be that he didn't have enough bone, but then they do bone grafting over there, so it may be that he just didn't have the money to afford the bone grafting. But anyway, they more or less sent him back with no dentures and no teeth, just gums. And he got so depressed about the whole thing, he killed himself. Well, that's what the coroner said was contributed to his death. So that's very sad, and a reminder that things don't always go so brilliantly, you know. The image that they portray in the sort of rather creative brochures is not always the reality. Anyway, sorry to finish on a sad note. I'll talk to you soon. Bye.